Whatever you do it carefully. Phantom Thread is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson and starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Vicky Krieps, and Lesley Manville. Before I go any further, I just want to say there will not be any plot spoilers in this review. This film is set in 1950s London and is centered around a well-renowned dressmaker in Reynolds Woodcock, who is portrayed by Daniel Day-Lewis. He is someone who is very stuck in his ways. He has a very rigid way of living his life. But when one day he adopts a new muse in the character of Alma, portrayed by Vicky Krieps, she begins to challenge his life in new and different ways. Paul Thomas Anderson is one of my favorite all-time directors. He is someone who I think is a true auteur, and I really love all of his films. I love that he is someone who is able to use film as a form of artistic expression. Phantom Thread is one of his most beautiful and stunning, masterful ways that he's able to use that form for artistic purposes. This film is so masterfully well directed. It is one of the best films that I've seen from 2017. It is a film so meticulously well crafted that it's almost difficult to express how well crafted it is, but I will do my best. Paul Thomas Anderson crafts this film the way the Daniel Day-Lewis character meticulously crafts one of the dresses that he makes in this film. This is an astonishing film when it comes to the technical aspects of filmmaking, cinematography, editing. The musical score in this film, done by Johnny Greenwood, is incredible. And the acting, of course, is also amazing. Daniel Day-Lewis said that this is his final film that he's going to be doing, and then he's going to retire. And it is a great way to end his career. It's not a flashy performance. It's not one of his big bombastic performances that we've seen in the past, but is one that is so subtly great and so meticulously solid that it is one of the best he's ever done, in my opinion. And also, the supporting characters that he has in this film, in the Vicky Krieps character of Alma and the Lesley Manville character of Cyril, who is the Reynolds Woodcock character's sister. The interplay within all of these characters is incredible. The way in which they interact with one another is all beneath the surface. This entire film is really given to us all beneath the surface. There is a surface level plot that plays out in this film, but where we get the meat of this film, where we get the depth of this film, is all underneath the surface. It is incredibly how deep this movie is and how much you can just peel back the layers to get at what Paul Thomas Anderson wants to show us. It is a film that is commentating on the idea of true artistic genius and the toll that takes on one person, and how it's not necessarily the best way to be an upper echelon genius, that being incredibly great at something does have its fallbacks. This character of Alma that takes on the new role in his life as muse and lover is something completely different that he's ever had to deal with before. She is almost his not quite intellectual equal, but someone who is of more intelligence than I think he is used to dealing with. There's a lot of character manipulation in this film, and all of that is subtle, and all of that is not overt in any way. It is incredibly delivered by the actors. The interplay between the Reynolds, Alma, and the Cyril character, the sense of who is in control and how one is going about gaining that control over one another, is an incredible interplay to watch. Also, I have to say, this film has some of the best sound I've ever seen in the film. There are several sequences in the film where certain things that aren't typically loud in real life are dialed up to another level to really show how distracting those things can be. The cinematography is great as well. This film utilizes a lot of indoor cinematography, a lot of dark cinematography, and it utilizes it all very, very well. One thing that I think is going to be a negative for a lot of people is this is not a mainstream film. This is a slow costume drama set in the 1950s. Not a lot is happening with the plot. The runtime is 2 hours and 20 minutes. And if you're not invested in this film, if you're not engrossed in the craft and the acting and the plot, you're going to be bored with it. It is very much an artsy art house film. But for me personally, who loves these movies, I found myself really engrossed because while there's not a lot happening in the plot, there's a lot of twists that you don't see coming, a lot of dark comedy that's also in the film. Once the film becomes more subversive and becomes more interesting, it begins to move a lot more quickly. One of the more negative aspects I have with the film, for me, is that later on in the film, some of the character decisions I didn't quite understand. Maybe that has to do with me having to give it a rewatch. So overall, I'm going to give this film a rather high score of 4.6 out of 5 stars. It is one of my favorite films from 2017, one of the best films I've seen from that year. I don't think it's a film for everyone, certainly not people who like their films more mainstream and more popcorn heavy. This film is very much an artistic, expressionistic piece from one of the best auteurs we have in Paul Thomas Anderson. This has been my review of Phantom Thread. If you like this video, please check out the other videos on my channel.